When I found out that I was pregnant, I was so excited. Like, I looked forward to everything, including people touching my belly. But nope. So this is the story of what is it like, what it feels like, and how it works to be pregnant and deliver a child during a global pandemic. So, the pandemic. As we all know, it started at the end of 2019 in China, and then it quickly spread around the world. And in particular, Italy became the epicenter in Europe, and then shortly after, the US became the epicenter of the world. And this is important to my story. You'll soon understand why. But let's start from the beginning. I got pregnant in January 2020. I was visiting my boyfriend in California. We had a long distance relationship between Italy and California. He was celebrating his birthday, so we spent a couple of weeks together, and then I went back to Italy. Well, things didn't feel quite right, so I took a pregnancy test, and guess what? It was positive. So I went to my family doctor, then I was referred to a gynecologist, and then I had to go to do an ultrasound. So I did all of those things at the end of February 2020 in Italy. At that time, the pandemic was already a thing. I mean, that everybody was aware of it, but no special measures were taken. So I did all of those testing normally. Nobody was wearing masks, no social distancing. Like, it felt pretty normal. Except that I have to mention that, when I was in the waiting room, when somebody coughed or sneezed, everybody else would panic. We would be immediately like, oh my gosh, is this person sick? So there was a little bit of that. But that was the only thing. All of the rest was normal. But after that, at the beginning of March 2020, my boyfriend came to Italy to visit me, and we were supposed to spend a week together. And that's what we did, but Italy went into lockdown while we were together. That was crazy. And that meant that everybody was supposed to go back home and to lock in place, let's say, not to go anywhere. And we were scared of that because we were supposed to part ways, and originally we were planning to meet after a month or so. But given the circumstances and the pregnancy, we had to change our plans. So we went to California together. And that was pretty crazy because I had with me only a suitcase with clothes and stuff for only a week because I couldn't go back home to pick something else up. I just had to go to fly to California. And that's what we did. But as I said in the beginning, we didn't really know how things would evolve. So in regards to pregnancy, I didn't want to do anything. I mean, I thought that I would do all of the testing, all of the doctor's appointments in Italy because I still thought that I could go back to Italy soon. But no, because I soon started feeling unwell, and it was clear that I needed to be seen by a doctor. So, setting aside how complicated the healthcare system is here for somebody like me who comes from a totally different system, the Italian one, for me it was particularly challenging because, first of all, I was a tourist. Tourists are not supposed to have access to that kind of care, but only emergency care. And second, I was from Italy, and as I mentioned, Italy was the epicenter of the virus, so nobody really wanted to have anything to do with an Italian person. But anyway, in the end, I managed to get an appointment, but I have to mention that I had to call so many hospitals, so many doctors, and everybody would be like, I don't know, we don't really do that. And even if they were willing to accept me, I had to do like a screening test on the phone, asking a million questions about my health, about where I was, whether I was whether I got in contact with anybody who was COVID positive. That was crazy. But anyway, in the end, I managed to see a doctor, and I booked the appointment, and I went. Well, that was something else because I got to the clinic, and it looked deserted. It was closed, there was nobody around. And I got this text message on my phone asking me to go to the rear of the building where I found a gazebo. And that was a parking lot. So this giant parking lot, there was a gazebo, there was a poor lady, I think a nurse or somebody like that, sitting there and taking the temperature of the patients. And by patients, I mean me, because I was the only one. And there was only a chair next to her for me to sit and to wait to be admitted to the building. So that was weird, but anyway, I was admitted and everything went normally. Like, everybody was wearing masks, but that was the only thing that was a little bit different from the normal. But the appointment was fine, everybody was nice, and that was the end of it. Then I had to do some blood work and an ultrasound, and I did those things normally. I mean, I just went to the place and there was a waiting room, everything was more normal there. The only thing is that I was asked to go alone, or even if my partner came with me, he was not allowed in the examination room with me. Well, anyway, in the meantime, it was May already, or the end of April, and it was clear that the pandemic was not ending. It was getting worse, actually. So we decided to stay in California together and to move. So not only I managed to move from Italy to California, but I also moved from a city to another, which meant that I had to do all of the process again of finding a doctor, finding the right place where to go, and all of that stuff. And that was particularly challenging because, as I said, I had to do all of those things alone. And we were talking about a woman who was at her first pregnancy in a foreign country, speaking a foreign language, and everybody was wearing masks, which means that not only people could not really understand me well, but I could not understand them either. I mean, the sound would be muffled, and I wasn't able to help myself by reading their lips. That was crazy. That was really challenging. And also it was kind of sad because my partner could not attend any of the appointments with me. And given the fact that the baby is not only mine but his too, that was not really nice. All of that except for two unfortunate occasions. And the first one was when I was about 5 months pregnant and I started bleeding. Oh my gosh, that was so scary. So we rushed to the hospital, to the emergency room, and we were both admitted into the examination room, where the doctors performed a series of tests, a bunch of tests, and they did an ultrasound. So my husband at that time, because in the meantime, got married. I should probably make a video about my crazy 2020. They did an ultrasound, and my partner was able to see the baby, to hear her heartbeat, because in the meantime we also found out that she was a girl. The second occasion was almost at the end of my pregnancy when I went in for a routine appointment, and my blood pressure was a little bit high, so I was sent to the hospital to do some further testing and a possible induction. So we went to the hospital, the doctors did all of the testing, and my partner was allowed with me in the examination room. Another ultrasound was done, and that's the second time that my husband was able to see the baby. That's all for the pregnancy. In October, it was finally time to deliver my baby. I was sent for an induction because the previous one, I didn't have to do it. In the end, I was fine. But eventually, I had to do it anyway because I was 41 weeks pregnant and the baby didn't really want to come out. There were some issues with her, so I was sent to the hospital and to do the induction. We were both allowed in the delivery room, but nobody else. So if we had other kids, no, nobody, just the two of us. And also we had a room for ourselves. I don't know whether that was something special because of the pandemic or whether that's the standard here, giving the private health insurance. But yeah, we had the room for ourselves. And we were required to wear masks, both of us. I have to say that we didn't wear it all the time because when there was nobody, where there was no medical personnel, we would just take it off. And sometimes we would forget to put it on immediately when somebody entered the room. And nobody said anything. Nobody was scolding us or anything. We were trying to be very careful. Also for me, it was not possible to wear it all the time because sometimes they would need to take my temperature or something else that required me to take my mask off, and that was fine. Toward the end of my labor, I also needed the oxygen mask, so I just took the normal mask off and I put the oxygen one on, and that was it. And also when I was pushing, I just was like, no way that I'm wearing a mask right now. Just leave me alone. Nobody said a word. I just delivered the baby and that was it. Yeah, my baby was born, and then we were transferred to another department of the hospital, the maternity one. And also there we had a room for ourselves, and everything felt pretty much the same, except that there was a constant exchange of medical personnel. So if in the delivery room we were taken care by basically the same nurse and the same doctor all the time, in the maternity department things were different because I saw maybe 4 or 5 different nurses. There were many doctors coming in to check on me, to check on the baby. Then there were some technicians, there were administrative personnel. So it was very important for us, for all of us, to be really respectful of wearing the mask and keep the distance when possible. That's what we did. Then I want to mention that 6 weeks after delivery, there is the the routine appointment to check on the mom and see how she's doing. And I expected that to be an in-person appointment because I just delivered the baby and I want to make sure that everything is fine, down there. Also, I got some stitches because I tore, like I had a 2nd degree tearing down there. And so I was sure that the doctor would want to see me in person. But no, it was a video call. It was a very thorough one. I had a million questions asked, and I'm sure that everything felt not right, or if I felt any discomfort or anything like that, the doctor would have asked me to see me in person, but I was doing fine, so that was it. We had a video call, and I felt a little weird. Now, talking about the baby, we obviously had to go to the pediatrician a bunch of times after she was born. The very first appointments felt very normal. I mean, both my husband and I were allowed with our baby in the doctor's office, and we were just wearing masks, and that was it. But when my baby turned 2 months, only one of us was allowed, and we decided that my husband would go because he's the American one, and we wanted to make sure to have a good communication with the doctor to understand everything and to ask the right questions. So my partner went in, and he had to wait a bit because the doctor was running late a little bit. And like 20 minutes after, he video called me, freaking out because the baby was crying like crazy. She was hungry and they couldn't calm her down. So I had to run in. We could be in the room together for a couple of seconds, and then he had to leave and I had to stay. I could tell that the medical personnel felt for us, and if they could, they would have allowed us to stay both, but that was not possible. So anyway, this is the end of my story. It's pretty intense, and should I have babies again in the future, I definitely hope and pray that there will be no pandemic next time, because this was challenging. This was very, very challenging. But tell me about you. Are you currently pregnant? Did you deliver a baby during these crazy times? And what was your experience? Or maybe you have questions for me that I didn't cover in this video. So if you do, write something in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Oh man, this sounds so formal. Well, anyway, you get the point. So thanks for watching and see you. Bye.